Ndewo, Kedu-Ki-Mere, Adi-Uma. Of course, I've said hello. How are you doing? I'm doing fine. Hopefully you are doing well as we continue this journey of learning my ancestral tongue and the ancestral tongue of many, if not most, African Americans, being the Igbo language of Southeast Nigeria. I just read a study not long ago that the way things are working as far as DNA testing is going, and how Black Americans are matching up unto others in the African continent, the numbers are that 60% of African Americans have at least one Igbo ancestor. So learning the Igbo culture, traditions, and language is a part pretty much of every African American and many in the Caribbean, especially those that are in islands that were originally colonized, that is, by the British, such as Barbados, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago, for instance, are highly Igbo areas, of which they were taken, as well as taken to Virginia here in the United States of America, in which my maternal grandfather's people come from. So when I took the DNA test, or my uncle that is took the DNA test, and it came back Igbo, it was no surprise at all that we came back the Igbo tribe of Nigeria, being that 40% of all slaves taken in Virginia came directly from the Igbo tribe of Nigeria. In other words, they were the most enslaved in the original successful colony of the United States, being Virginia, and spread out all over the country after that. But that's enough of the history lesson. Just going to go through 10 more new words in the category of arts and entertainment. En-Kee-Ree is how you say arts and entertainment. En-Ka means arts, Na means and En-To-Rondo means entertainment. So again, we're just going to go over 10 quick words, again, in the same series we study every week in arts and entertainment. En-Kee-Ree En-To-Rondo, arts and entertainment. All right, so let's get going. Let me not skip myself. I have me and my friends and family on here, of course. Welcome Edward Cribbs, one of my cousins. Welcome Joe Cash, great gospel preacher and elder here in Alabama, and a good friend of mine. Welcome as well, and everybody that's joined us today. So that's me just on the screen after coming back after my 2019 trip from Uyo in Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. And of course, I always bring cloth back with me, and that outfit I have on in the video is no exception to that. All right, so let's go ahead and get our 10 quick words. And again, it's just going to be really brief, and thank you for being faithful to this and learning this. Maybe we'll all be fluent one day, and we'll go over and travel to Igbo land, Southeast Nigeria together at some point in history. Hopefully, again, the COVID-19 pandemic will lighten up and we'll be able to go over there again. That's the only thing that counts in my 2020 trip, but hopefully 2021, summertime, I'll try to go back over there once again. So let's go ahead and let's start with our first word. We already did fantasy last time, so really our first word is feature film. So again, we're talking about things related to arts and entertainment. So to say feature film, you would say En-Kee-Ree Ah-Toe-Mah-Toe. And I'll say it slowly and identify the letters that have a different pronunciation than what you would see in English. So the first word is En-Kee-Ree, which means film or movie. And if you notice, the E's again, the I's in Igbo are actually E sounds. That's why you hear me saying En-Kee-Ree. And of course, the next word is Ah-Toe-Mah-Toe, which means feature. So you basically said film featured. Because remember, in Igbo, like Spanish and other languages, most languages on the planet, you actually give the subject, then the description. But in English, we do it backwards. You give the description, then the subject. So remind yourself to think like an Igbo person would. You would give the subject, then the description. So in other words, instead of saying blue car, you will say car blue. Okay. All right. So let's break that down. That last word, En-To-Mah-Toe. You see the U with the dot underneath. That gives a different pronunciation. That's called a diacritic. And that U with the dot underneath gives an O sound. So that's why you hear me saying Ah-Toe-Mah-Toe. So again, just to put it all together, to say a featured film, you would say En-Kee-Ree Ah-Toe-Mah-Toe. featured film. Again, one more time slow. En-Kee-Ree Ah-Toe-Mah-Toe, featured film. All right, flick. In other words, an informal way of saying movie in English. Flick is basically an adaptation of English and imported into the Igbo language. It would be Flee-Kee, flick. Flee-Kee, flick. So remember the I's make an E sound. So it's Flee-Kee, flick. All right. Here's something that's not just a language learning opportunity, but it's also a heritage and culture. What you see is in the picture is an actual Igbo flute. The flute is a big part of Igbo music, and it's just ironic that the bass guitar and the flute have always been my favorite instruments, even before I knew anything about being Igbo myself. So to say folk or traditional, you know, something that's folk or traditional in nature, the word would be Au-Dee-Nah-Nea. Au-Dee-Nah-Nea is folk or traditional. Au-Dee-Nah-Nea, folk or traditional. Now, again, you have special characters. You got 3 diacritics. In other words, you have the dots underneath. The first one is that old diacritic that gives you a sound like auto, like auto, and make me remember that I'm thinking, to pronounce it correctly, I either think in my mind AU or AW, for that letter. And again, the I with the dot underneath, that gives a really high-pitched E sound like ink, ink, ink. So you're saying E, 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 like ink, ink, ink. All right, so just put it together again. It's Au-Dee-Nah-Nea, folk or traditional. Au-Dee-Nah-Nea, folk or traditional. Now the flute, just for a sidebar conversation, is Au-Dea. Au-Dea is flute in Igbo. All right, thanks for hanging with me. Almost done. These will get a little bit easier now as we go forward. The last few in this set of 10. For a gallery, like art gallery, a collection of paintings, whatever the case may be, sculptures, it would be A-Bae-En-Goe-See. A-Bae-En-Goe-See is gallery. So again, your special characters really are going to be the E's make an A sound and the I make an E sound. So that's why I'm saying A-Bae-En-Goe-See for gallery. Again, A-Bae-En-Goe-See, gallery. All right, genre. In other words, the type of music or the type of movie that you're watching. Like, for instance, the type of movie that you could be watching could be, unfortunately, horror or comedy or romance or action, so forth and so on. So to say the type of movie you're watching or the genre or the type of music you're listening to, it's pretty simple. It would be Oh-Dee. Oh-Dee. Again, you got the special characters. U diacritic is making an O sound, and the E diacritic is that sharp E sound, like E, 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 ink, E, 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 ink. All right, so again, genre or type is Oh-Dee, Oh-Dee for genre or type. All right, the guitar. Got all types of guitars and banjos. A lot of the folklore in the United States is that the banjo is actually an adaptation of an African instrument that our ancestors made during the time of slavery, and it just happened to be appropriated and taken into bluegrass culture in Kentucky. And so obviously then the banjo is really an African invention. I just never got credit for that one, unfortunately, like a lot of things in the United States. So to say guitar, you know, a string instrument of this nature, you would say Oh-Bau, Oh-Bau, guitar. So again, special characters, U diacritic is O, and that O diacritic character is Ah. So Oh-Bau, guitar. Oh-Bau, guitar. All right, to say guitarist, it's a little bit more involved. What I'm seeing as a pattern in the Igbo language is that whenever you're trying to describe a person, you use the word Aun-Yea, Aun-Yea. So that's basically telling your hearer that you're talking about a person. Then after the word Aun-Yea, you would describe the type of person you're describing or talking about. So to say guitarist, you would say Aun-Yea, na-eti, Oh-Bau. Remember Oh-Bau? You just learned that is guitar. And so what you just said is Aun-Yea, the person, na-eti, which means playing, and Oh-Bau, the guitar. So literally to say guitarist in short in English, you really say the person that's playing the guitar in Igbo. So again, put it all together. It's Aun-Yea na-eti Oh-Bau, guitarist. So again, Aun-Yea na-eti Oh-Bau, guitarist. All right, hip hop. One thing I found very, very interesting about Black American culture is that it goes everywhere to every planet, and it actually gets in the culture of everybody. And so hip hop, that which originated in the South Bronx, from my understanding, and the 70s, 1970s, has reached worldwide, has even been brought into the Igbo culture, and there's a word for it. And so obviously then you don't say hip hop, you got to say it almost with an accent. So you would say Hee-Pau-Poe. Let me get it out right. Hee-Pau-Poe is hip hop. So again, Hee-Pau-Poe, hip hop. All right, let's move on. Just two more, and the 10 words for the day are yours. Horror. So remember we talked about genre. So horror is a type of film. To say horror in Igbo is En-Toe-Gwue. En-Toe-Gwue for horror. Now, again, you got special things going on in this word. You got the U diacritic, gives you the O, but you drop the E character. Okay, it's not called E in Igbo. I'm just using E just to keep it simple with the English pronunciation of the letters. So you drop the E character. So again, just like English, when you bring two words together in Igbo, many times you actually just drop a letter and don't pronounce it. Just like I like to use an example all the time, instead of saying do not, sometimes we say don't. And so we get rid of some of the letters. So same thing in this word in Igbo. So again, it's En-Toe-Gwue for horror. Again, En-Toe-Gwue, horror. All right, last one. And thanks for hanging out with me here on this short lesson. I try to do every Sunday. Good Lord sees fit 10 quick words. Inspirational. So like an inspirational song, an inspirational movie is basically saying the word inspirational or inspiration with an accent to it. So this one I struggle with a little bit, so I'm going to just say it as slow as I can so I get it out correctly. So it's Inspirastional. Lot of syllables. Inspirastional is inspirational. So I'll say it one more time really slowly. Inspirational is inspirational. All right, well, thanks again for joining me. Again, for those that are really interested in the Igbo culture and learning the language, reconnecting with your roots as Black Americans, thank you for joining me. And again, how you say thank you in Igbo is imela. Imela. And in order to say goodbye, you would say, well, in this case, it would be good night. It would be ka chifo. All right, have a good night. Ka chifo.